Afternoon and a good welcome, warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for being here and looking forward to a positive meeting. And just a reminder, if it is your first time, that we are on air. That's what that sign is up there, and that means that people who are home or can listen as well, and we welcome those that are listening online. And mobiles, if you have them with you, if you could just switch them off, it does interfere with our recording system as well, so I really appreciate that. Please be seated. Thank you. So in opening the meeting, we have one apology from Alderman Cox. Declaration of interest? Any declaration of interest from Alderman? No? Confirmation of the minutes. Somebody move the minutes of the previous meeting. Alderman McKendrick, Alderman Finlay, all those in favour, please raise your hand. That is all Aldermen present. The motion is carried. We have no deputations, no petitions, no community reports, so public question time. We haven't got any on notice, but any other questions from the public? I've got a heap of them. You just want us to answer them? If happy with that, are you? All right. I've got a number of questions, so I thought people were going to ask them. That's what normally happens, but I'm happy just to give an answer. I've had a read. I'll give a statement.
Stuart Rice.
Yeah, just stand near the microphone, please.
Stuart Rice, Chairman of North East Residents and Farmers and board member of Launceston North East Railway. My question is, does this council accept the agreement by the Minister as far as the division of the railway line goes up, which provides us with Turners Marsh to Lilydale, and of course the further extension of that line eventually through to Inverest?
Council hasn't got an opinion on that at this stage. We haven't discussed it, but the report's only come out very recently. Now that there is a set position from the state government on the direction they wish to head, we will obviously in the next month or so have a meeting and determine which way we will vote, and aldermen will have their right to make their decision, and then we'll make a statement in the media as to the way forward that council believes is the right way.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just go to the microphone, state your name and address, please.
Mary Zegveld, 148 Tunnel Road Tunnel. Just wondering whether the council has actually looked into any alternative routes other than that of the actual railway line. I know that there are several back roads that are very close to the railway line that could be used as an alternative route for bike riders rather than actually destroying the railway line.
Yeah, no.
And that way it'll keep both the bike riders and the people who want to ride on trains happy.
Correct.
And it'd be a really great thing for tourism.
No, we haven't, but that's obviously what we'll consider once we have a consideration as to all the information. We've now got the government's view, which I said before, and we'll then take into consideration that and then come up with our own position on it.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Considering the reporting in the press at the weekend of the Chamber of Commerce, and I believe it was reported by you, which cannot be accurate, that it was the best outcome for everyone. In light of the situation that the council has invested in tourist accommodation in Launceston over parking, etc., Bridestone Estate attracts 85,000 visitors a year to the Lavender Farm. Now, there has been disputation with the Dorset Council and Bridestone, but Bridestone offer a very big asset to this city with its tourist accommodation and spending power in the city, and I hope that the council is cognisant of that fact.
We are, and I just want to correct, the Chamber might have made a statement. I definitely didn't make a positive statement either way. My statement was that we welcome the fact that the decision has been made. We now have to consider that, and we haven't considered that at this stage.
Mr Mayor and councillors, you were all here when we made a presentation.
Correct. From
the Launceston and North East Railway Group. We believe that we're able to meet what we've been given at this present time. The only disappointing part about it is that the railway line from Lilydale through to Waina, which is in your jurisdiction, is probably the easiest part of the railway line to fix, and we would sort of like some consideration of being able to keep the railway through the historical tunnel, because the architecture of the tunnel goes in line with the architecture of Launceston, and it would be a very big tourist draw card. And instead of going from, like at the moment, it'll be going from nowhere, which is in Turners Marsh, into Lilydale. So the biggest beneficiaries of the whole railway line will be Launceston and will be Lilydale. But to be able to just incorporate the scenic Denison Gorge and the railway tunnel would be an absolute asset to the railway people.
Thank you. I'll take that more as a statement, but we will take that in consideration when we consider that in the near future.
Mr Mayor, Ian Bassett from 320 McHale Road. The railway goes through my property. I just asked the council, when they're considering their vote on this, would they consider keeping the rail from at least where we've been given it to, at the Falls, to Waina, and give us a chance to run that. And if we can't go on and we fall over, then they can pull the rest of it up. But just give us a chance.
Thank you. No, we've heard that, and that will be taken into consideration. Any other questions?
Good afternoon. I'm Ross Broomall from Riverside. I'm the director of the LNER. Just a couple of interesting points. Pup and Billy in Victoria generates $40 million into the local economy within the council area of the train, and 40% of that is from overseas, and that is what we are looking for, to run a world-class tourist train, at least to Waina. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we've heard your presentation. We've had your presentation at council. So.
Andrew Rearman speaking here. I just want to talk on the...
this is a question and answer. You're down to speak at an item which will come up very soon, Andrew. No worries. I appreciate your enthusiasm. There's question and answer time. Yes?
I'm Doreen Rebecca from the tunnel, and I live next to or facing the railway tunnel. And my question is, what are you giving me as a ratepayer? Can you explain why the people in our shire are not being listened to or acknowledged regarding how the trail will impact the people living along the suggested rail trail?
Yeah, as I've said before, we haven't made a decision on that. We haven't had to. There's been no set view or which way the government or whatever was going to go. So we now know the way it's going to go, and we are prepared to make our decision in due course, considering all the facts from all the aldermen. We'll be able to do that in the next month or so. Any other questions? Thank you. So now, under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act of 1993, Council acts as a planning authority in regard to items included in the agenda under item 8, Planning Authority. So we've got item 8.1, and we do have a number of speakers for this. And General Manager, if you could just read out the rules for this.
Thanks, Mayor. Only residents, ratepayers or people on the electoral roll of the City of Launceston may address an item on the agenda. Before commencing, please state your name and address or property owned in Launceston. You may speak for up to 2 minutes. There will be no extension of time permitted. You must speak for or against the recommendation, not ask questions of aldermen or officers, or attempt to enter into debate with aldermen or officers. Statements can be made either directly relating to supporting the recommendations or arguing against it. Comments and statements are not to be defamatory, offensive or abusive, or be designed to embarrass any person, including aldermen or officers. Statements are not to be repetitive of statements or points already made. Several people repeating a common position should nominate a single speaker on their behalf. The Mayor may ask a member of the gallery to cease speaking if the above procedures are not followed. Following hearing the comments of the gallery, Alderman will then consider the item.
Thank you, General Manager. So, Andrew, now your time to say your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Apologise for that before.
No, you're right. That's fine.
Just want to make a comment on the
Just state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Rearman, and I live at 6 Treviso Court, Sandhill.
Thank you.
The development at 123 Westbury Road, we have some trees named the Leyland cypress trees that have been planted right behind our property, which grow to 30 metres high. Currently they're at least 8 metres high and only a few years old already. I asked that they be removed. I know that's on the agenda there with it, but if they could be taken away, it's just totally blocking out the sun, and they're hanging over the fence nearly, and they were supposed to have been cut as a hedge. That has not been done at all, and they're just out of control, to be honest, and I just asked that they be removed. And I asked that if this goes ahead, that any possums that do live in those gum trees please be removed first too as well, because they've been there since we've been there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Robert Harrison.
Robert Harrison, 48 Brisbane Street, Launceston. Just an introduction to the DA Lodge. A bit of history doesn't probably help. The original Mount Pleasant access was cut off by the Southern Outlet construction in the early 1980s, and the historic gatehouse and entrance gates can be still seen today off Westby Road, just past the overpass on the outlet heading towards Prospect. When Mr. DeWalt purchased Mount Pleasant in 2002, it was his desire to restore the original driveway by buying this gatehouse and relocating it to Mount Pleasant. However, he was unsuccessful. He was fortunate enough to buy 123 Westby Road, which is the subject land, in 2005, and able to start his plans for a new driveway to Mount Pleasant via a right-of-way. This is one of the key aspects of the subdivision, being the restoration of the original driveway, with a design by Paul Bangay in Melbourne. There's been exceptional landscape plan type thing. Also, there's been the input of a sculptor who's designed something to the front gate, and also which will be quite exciting if the DA is approved. The result is that there will fortunately be available over a period of time 16 architecturally designed houses have been designed by the local architect firm Cumulus on these expansive sites averaging 2,000 metres squared. That's approximately 3 normal house size blocks. So rather than the 20 blocks that could have been there under the planning scheme, 20 houses, there'll be probably 16. A benefit for council is that the council, with this application, will not be responsible for the maintenance of the landscaping, roadways, footpaths, lighting, as would be the normal standard with a subdivision. This process has been a long time coming to fruition, with guidance from the extremely helpful planning department, so as to comply with the extensive planning requirements for such an innovative subdivision as this unique internationally styled development. I look forward to the full support of this DA by the council in line with the officer's recommendation, and that's all I need to have to say. Thank you.
Chloe Lyon, Commercial Project Delivery, 47A, Brisbane Street. So following on from what Rob has said, I just wanted to reiterate that this proposal is largely compliant, a compliant development under the planning scheme, and one that will result in a unique residential offering for Launceston. The site is zoned for development, it's low density residential, and I would argue that the proposal is less intense than what could have occurred on the site, particularly if it was freehold subdivision. The building envelope for each dwelling is largely compliant with the planning scheme requirements. Many of them are over the permitted 8 metre height. However, this is often due to the topography of the site which slopes down, and the maximum height of 8 metres isn't for the entirety of the dwelling. All the setbacks to boundaries are met, and therefore the impacts to the neighbours will be negligible. Yes, I understand that there will be change to this site from what it currently is, and that has caused angst amongst the neighbours, both previously and now. However, I believe that the gated community concept with its landscaped gardens and entrance driveways will be an asset to the immediate area and Launceston generally. We need to remember that this is a privately held parcel of land and not a park. In terms of the issues raised in the representations, some of which don't have any planning relevance, and then the others have been addressed through permit condition. There's a requirement to change a window in one of the dwellings, and to remove the cypress trees that were discussed, and also to be more clear about the number of trees that have got to be planted on each lot. And so there will now be well in excess trees planted versus what's being removed. The proponent is happy to accede to all of these requirements of the permit conditions. There was also a bit of angst over the lack of replanting from the previous tree removal DA.
Thank you. That's all the speakers I have here. Any other speakers? Thank you. And then item 8.1, move for anything, second that? Or stimulate?
Questions I'll ask, but I'll speak before I ask those. I guess that in reading through this has been a long time coming, this development. I guess it started a number of years ago, which is when I started on council. It may have been before that, Mr. Harrison, but I said in my time in there, I guess it's been a checkered view through with in relation to trees and various other things that have gone on there. But I guess my perspective is looking at this in a totality, this is going to be a class subdivision. I think the site lends itself for a class subdivision, and they've done that. The issues that I think come up, and have been come up regularly, are traffic management, water runoff, I guess the number of trees that are going to be planted, and I guess the fact that under previous DA, trees need to be planted that haven't been planted. So those are the three things that I've gone through, and a couple of issues in regards to trees that have been planted, which I think now the Commission will now be removing cypress trees. And I think in relation to one of the lots, there's a re-angling of one of the windows to ensure that those walking doesn't occur. And I think earlier in the piece there were some issues in regards to endangered species or fauna, which I believe has also been now dealt with. In relation to traffic management, I guess this site was always going to cause some issues in regards to that. I guess we had lots of comments in regard to traffic management on Wesley Road through different iterations where we changed the way the road runs by having 2 lanes up the hill, having 1 lane with a bike lane on one side of it now. To me, a lot of those things haven't exacerbated the traffic management, certainly not to the level that some thought that it may do so. Clearly, the people who live in Caroline Street have some potential issues in getting out and turning right into Western Road. I believe they're there now and will continue to be there. And the subdivision being on the lower side of the Caroline Street turnoff would mean that they're going to have first dibs at the traffic anyway. So the people, which I think the DA actually states, is going to be impacted on people actually turning out of the subdivision more so than people from Caroline Street, because they will get first right-hand turn over those people. So I guess there's been an issue about whether the traffic management report was up to date enough. That's been, I think, updated to 2016 traffic data, been reviewed by the Infrastructure Department on 2 occasions, and they've deemed that that is satisfactory in relation to traffic movements in there. Yes, there'll be some waiting time, but unfortunately, when we have traffic, we'll always have some form of waiting time. We did discuss at one stage put traffic lights in there, I think, and I think luckily we haven't got those to stay there when we can. We love them. So I believe, to me, it's a classy subdivision. It's got 1 way in, 1 way out. I don't believe the Caroline Street one is proposed to be used as a way out, but if that was for the main residents, I don't think that would impact greatly. I must admit, yesterday I went up and had a look at Urell Street, and the amount of water that was running down Urell Street as a result of runoff of water concerned me a lot. As the officers mentioned to me this morning, if that's normal runoff, then that's something that happens, but it's still something I think that we, as council and with the developer, I hope, can actually address in relation to the amount of water that's coming off there, and say where we can contain. I guess all the buildings need to contain the water off their roofs and into the stormwater system, so that may probably help. But I would urge council and the developer to work together to ensure that some of those water runoff issues that currently exist in Urell Street are dealt with as part of this subdivision. I guess, where else did I have? The other issues I had were in relation to the trees, and I guess I've watched the trees come down over a period of time. Concerned me a little bit about the number of trees that came down in consideration of what our original DA allowed. But I think they are down now, and I must admit cypress trees I'm not a great fan of anyway. So provided they are replanted in accordance with the DA of a couple of years ago, which I believe in discussions again with officers this morning as part of the DA before Australia title was issued, that planning needs to be done as part thereof. So I think that in itself is something that I think is positive, and the fact that each lot is going to have trees
Just thank you. Your time is up. Do you need an extension? Thank you. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Alderman Kendrick. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried. Thank you.
And I think there was one other comment made in one of the representations in regard to access from Urella Street into Normanston Road, and I guess the banking up of traffic. So hence my two questions. My two questions are, is there a possibility or is it worth considering putting a clearway or a no park or sort of a clearway area as you come out of Normanston Road, as you come out of Urella Street into Normanston Road, so cars banked up coming down Normanston Road don't actually park across the road, which gives people a chance of turning right. And the second one was in relation to the trees, as in the sort of 5 to 6 metre trees and the 3 to 4 metre trees, whether it's possible to consider, whether it's appropriate to consider conditioning that some of those trees need to be matured.
Thank you.
In terms of the question regarding traffic, I guess our view would be to wait till it's established and observe what's happening, and if needed, then we can consider extra measures.
If Council was concerned about the immediate impact of the loss of trees or the small trees not having a significant visual presence at the commencement of the development, it would be possible to consider a condition requiring some more advanced trees.
Thank you. A question from the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. And I think this question probably came to a number of aldermen. It's actually a statement, but I'm going to put it into a question. The person that contacted us notes, they're not in the chamber today, that the proposed development documents for 123 Westbury Road do not appear that the requirements for a 15-metre greenbelt buffer zone stipulated in DA 0422/215 have been adhered to in the current plans. So in framing that statement and sticking a question on the end of it, what would Council be doing to make sure that happens?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Catherine Maindridge will answer the question.
The landscape plan that has been proposed as part of the development actually, I'll go back one step. The previous DA required the condition for a 15-metre green belt around the site, and that was an amended plan requirement under the previous DA. That was submitted and approved of at the time. So the current landscape plan for this development actually incorporates that green belt application as well, and then it further enhances the landscaping. So that has actually been included in this one.
Thank you. Alderman Finlay, wish to speak?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm standing today to support the application before us. As it largely complies with the scheme, I feel that it is appropriate for our support today. I think it represents a high quality, low density development within close reach of the CBD, which is a unique offering available today in terms of the land availability in the area. I think it's important through the conditioning and the strata development process that there is some certainty for the concerns presented by the neighbours that use can't commence until all of the requirements of the strata development are completed, and work can't commence until the amended plans that we require are submitted and approved. That, I think, works to both the improved traffic assessment work that was done with the 2016 data and also with the improved landscaping plans. So I'm comfortable with the submission as it's presented today, and I feel that if successful and goes through without any appeal, that it'll be a great quality development compliant with the scheme for Launceston.
Thank you, Alderman Finlay. Any other alderman wish to speak? Alderman Kendrick. Oh, Deputy Mayor. No, Deputy Mayor, otherwise you lose your chance.
Look, appreciate all the remarks today. I guess one of the things that I know has created some angst, Mr Mayor, when people have spoken to me about this one, is the fact that, and I think it's been touched on in some of the questions and some of the previous speakers, I guess when there's a new development coming on the scene, there is a level of excitement. And as Alderman Mackenzie said, this is quite obviously a premium development. I guess the angst that's created amongst some is by the actions that go along the way with creating that development. And I know Alderman Mackenzie mentioned about the water in Urella Street, and I know Director Hurst and others, I think probably even before Director Hurst, have had emails from me responding to queries from residents about the water issues up there that they believe have been exacerbated. They believe, I'm saying, I'm not a hydrologist, they believe have been exacerbated by actions up there and somewhat reticence to have those addressed. I know that concerns have come to me, and I know other aldermen, around the trees. I think something came to us in this initial iteration to remove some trees, and we, I think, knocked that back. And then we got an arborist report, I think, a little while later, where all these trees mysteriously were unwell and needed to be taken down. So I guess what I'm saying, Mr Mayor, is that there is a bit of angst out there created by these previous things. When we sit as a planning authority, we have to look at what's in front of us. And as has been highlighted, when you look through the plans, there is a lot of compliance there. I think the tricky thing with this site is that some of these long-standing things, perhaps in the way they've been resolved and dealt with previously, have created that angst out there in the community, and some fear amongst some people I know that have contacted me. And I think the traffic that's been highlighted too, and given what already exists in that area, so there is a bit of reticence about that. So I am hoping some other aldermen speak, because I am looking forward to hopefully to hearing some other comments on it. But yeah, like I said, the angst that's come to me has been from prior iterations in this process, which has perhaps created some angst in what's in front of us today. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy. Alderman McKendry.
What Alderman Mackenzie has said about the trees, and also the question about the 15 metres, that seemed to be a bit of concern within the community. Probably my main concern or comments would be about the traffic, and I'm happy to hear that our infrastructure department will look at some of that traffic area that's probably coming from Urella Street. But quite frankly, Mr Mayor, and I say this, I probably shouldn't, but I'll say it, well, we stuffed up Westbury Road, and let's not hope we do it again. So I'm hoping that when this development, which I will support because I think it'll be a great development in the area, I think what they've done, the size of the blocks, the number of blocks, I think they'll suit in, and also the entranceway that they've featured and a gated area, I think will be great. But there is an issue for some of the people that already live in Caroline Street, the street up, of accessing out of there at the moment. But I'm quite happy to say here today that that I will be keeping an eye, once it's on and opened and going, that the traffic issues may be looked at again if there are some solutions, if there are some problems. There are issues there at the moment, and I think what some of the things we did, like an outstand getting from Launceston Road, turning left into one lane again, that slowed the traffic down, and other issues that we've created, I firmly believe, in Westbury Road that we created a few years ago. Nothing to do with the Director of Infrastructure we have today. It was before his time, because I'm sure it would have been slightly different than we have. But that's one of the areas that is of concern to the people who currently live there, that currently have some issues getting onto Westbury Road, particularly of a morning, because there's a number of schools and so on that's up there. There's the high school, there's St Pat's College, and there's some nursing home areas up there. And in the peak periods of a morning and the afternoon, it is an issue. And even this morning, Mr Mayor, when we were there on the bus, there was quite a traffic volume coming down Westbury Road. And if you wanted to turn out of the street to come into the city, it wouldn't be easy. So I'm going to keep an eye on the traffic. The rest of it, I think, is a good proposal, and I certainly support it.
Thank you, Alderman McKendry. Any other speakers? Alderman McKenzie, you wish to close?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The land is zoned low residential. We have a subdivision plan for low residential, which is probably at a lower end of low residential than it needs to be to actually achieve it. noting the conditions in regards to the traffic management and the fact that it's been through iterations 2 or 3 times, and we've had professional advice suggesting that that works. I'm like Alderman McKendrick, it's something we need to keep under advisement and look at as we go through. I don't see any reasons why we shouldn't be passing this the subdivision today, and therefore I'm in support of it.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? That's 1 against. The rest are 4. The motion is carried. Move on to item 8.2. So I don't have any speakers for 8.2. Anyone happy to move the motion? Moved, Alderman Kendrick. Seconded, Alderman Finlay. Do you wish to speak, Alderman Kendrick?
Yes, Mayor, I think that this would be an acceptable solution recommendation. I think there is some concern about residents in the rear. Where the streets are already been taken down, but that could happen in any residential area or property area. But if we look at the site, and this morning we were out there. You're slack, you didn't do it for me. Oh, public, yeah, I do. I withdraw it wholeheartedly. Is that the height of the building at the nearest point is a reasonable, acceptable low level, and then it just goes up, and it takes about, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 6 metres before it gets to a height of about 4 metres. So I firmly believe, Mr. Mayor, that at the end of the day, it will not have an impact on the neighbour at the rear. It may have done if it went straight up, but it's a gradual slope to the height of the building at the rear of a building at the moment. So, Mr. Mayor, I think that we've addressed most of the issues, and I'm quite happy to move it.
Thank you, Alderman Finlay. Any other Alderman wish to speak?
No, thanks.
I'll put the motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Alderman Kendrick. That is all. No, that's not all Alderman. That is all Alderman present. The motion is carried. Thank you. Ahmed, we're moving right on. Mayor's announcements. Oh, we now no longer sit as a planning authority as well. I just want to report, first of all, congratulations to our employee, Jeff Stick, who was awarded the Raymond West Scholarship from the Local Government Professionals of Australia to attend the Association's National Congress and Business Expo in August to investigate the Internet of Things, to measure how long cars have been in parking spots. IoT, that's the phrase, that's good. Glad you know all about it, Alderman Alexander. Congratulations to Jeff, we thank him for that, very well done. And we look forward to the report that will come back and the way that will improve parking in this great city. Also, I just want to mention that I was pleased to be able to attend an afternoon tea with the new shed extensions out at Kings Meadows, and they're very thankful, and they just want to pass on to the Alderman and to the council staff, in particular for the land they have for that shed out at Kings Meadows, and they very, very much appreciate that. They wouldn't have obviously been able to do it without, and they are actually going gangbusters. It's a fantastic organisation now with the support that they're getting, and a lot of people that benefit from that. And I was able to talk to a few of the people who just joined recently the shed, and one guy was saying he's only been there, I think it's just 3 months, but he's saying what a difference it's making to him because he's now met some people that he can do things together with, and he's made new friends. So it's very good, very exciting. Also, pleased to we just mentioned about the Australian Rally Championships, which was on at the weekend. Absolutely very successful. The Friday night was a great success with thousands and thousands of people there. A bit cold, but it was a great night. I didn't see Alderman Alexander, but I did. I did at the beginning for some cars. Alderman Wood was there that I saw. Alderman Kendrick, I didn't see you, but he was there. Good on you. So with other thousands of people. But it was actually a great, that was a great evening, but the whole rally was well received, and from talking to the organisers, extremely pleased with it and thankful for the support from this council as well. So we appreciate that, and it did bring people into our city, bed nights, so we're now looking forward to the actual results of the figures that we get to be able to evaluate that as well. And it was great on Saturday night to be at the officiation, to be at the 10th anniversary of the Encore Theatre Company, and to share a few words on behalf of this council for the great organisation Encore is and what they have achieved over 10 years, but many shows in that time, which is absolutely amazing. Alderman Gibson was there as well. Congratulate Alderman Gibson on the role that he's played in that as well over the many years, and looking forward to the exciting new productions that will be happening in the not too distant future. And I just remind people that this week is Donate Life Week. So it's something where you can give it consideration. If you haven't, sit down and talk to those around about, and remember that maybe you too can be someone, have it on your licence or register to donate an organ. And I have heard stories, I'm sure we can all share stories of people who their life has been extended because somebody else is willing to donate a kidney or a part of their body or whatever it might be to help them and assist them. So some great positive stories. So it was great that that's happening, and encourage those to be involved with that. And that's a lot from myself. Thank you. Alderman reports. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one I'll mention very briefly. Last week on Thursday, standing in for you because you were at Prospect at the same time, I attended the Headstone commemoration project at Carvilla. Alderman Wood was there. The reason I'm mentioning that, and we've talked about it around the table here before, the Headstone project was a project once again driven by volunteers who have researched and identified ex-service people from World War I who are buried in cemeteries around the state, whose family at the time or for other reasons couldn't afford to have a headstone there marking their resting place. Very hard-working team of volunteers, led by Andrea Gerard, whose service was recently acknowledged in the Queen's Birthday Honours. I think she received an OAM, and she also received life membership of the RSL. Andrea made note, Mr Mayor, and it's one of the reasons I'm mentioning it in this report, of her gratitude to this council for the support of the project. So the 9 headstones were commemorated on Thursday. She also singled out Mr Frost, Andrew Frost, and Ralph from Carvilla, who for their support and hard work in making that happen. Out of things sometimes come unintended consequences. Their diligence and hard work have revealed not just 9 people to be commemorated, but I think they're up into the hundreds now. But no one can doubt their diligence and hard work and commitment. And I know, Mr Mayor, for the people that were there, the descendants of those service people, it was a very emotional and touching moment, shared by many. The chapel was full. A lot of young people there too paying their respects. So it was a great event. And as I said, Andrea was very, very supportive of this council for what we've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Alderman McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to touch on a couple of your mayoral announcements, one being the Tama Community Peace Trust, and noting that that actually is on this week, the actual the community, peace party's on all week. So there's plenty of action going on. Brendan Nelson's coming to speak. There's a number of really high quality speakers coming down through the week. So please make it your every endeavour to go and attend one or more of those activities. And it was great to hear Honourable Peter Ray speak about Jean Hearn, who was actually the catalyst for all of this happening about peace. And I've actually asked Peter to give me a copy of his speech, because it was a really pointed speech about peace and how we can actually filtrate that out into our communities. And so I might send copies to everybody else when I get it. So I think that was a fantastic event, and recognising Jean Hearn and noting that both Jean was a Labor Party senator and Peter was a Liberal Party senator, and how they could actually come and work together. And Senator Peter Whish-Wilson was there as well, showing that this actually transcends party politics, which is fantastic. The other matter was just in relation to the one underneath, Boral. The launch of their new plant must mean that we're about to get our North Bank completely ready to go. So I think that's something to celebrate. It's been a long time coming, and something pretty exciting for Launceston, that we can now get on and complete the North Bank development, and Boral can move on with their activity. So I think that's a pretty major milestone in our day-to-day activity. While we were waiting to start, and lunch was done reasonably quickly, I went for a bit of a wander and I went up through them all. And I'm absolutely excited about the speed in relation to how that's coming along. You know, nearly half of the pavers are down, so I think that's a pretty major part of the development. I think that the developers have got to be commended for the amount of work that they've done to get that to where it is at the moment. And I think the Mayor made some comment about the men's sheds, and I'd just like to bring up the Ravenswood men's shed as well, which I sort of spent a little bit of time up there, and that is going gangbusters as well. So it's showing there's a real need in the community, and they're using our community hall to operate that. And I said it's just fantastic watching the people and some of the things that they've actually built in and around there. They've used, I think, some of the beams off the walkway around Seaport to develop things, and they're doing projects for, I think, the council as well, and the Heritage Forest. So it's terrific to see people being engaged and across all parts of the community.
Thank you. Alderman Wood.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks very much. Look, I know you touched on it very well, but I just wanted to highlight the very successful Australian Rally Championships that were held in our municipality over the weekend. In particular, the super special stage on Saturday night, which drew over 5,000 people there. Friday night, sorry. And it was incredibly well attended. And a great success. The skill and the talent of the competitors was just remarkable. And I think that I think it was reported today that it's considered that 2,000 people came from out of the municipality to attend the various stages over the weekend. So the economic benefits to the region will be vast. And other thing I wanted to mention was the organisation of it was tremendous, and the organisers were particularly pleased and impressed and congratulated council staff on the night, and they were very impressed with the level and degree of support that the council and the staff offered them to host the event and make it the success that it was. So I congratulate all involved and look forward to it being even more successful next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gibson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the fact that there is currently a round of community grants open, enabling community groups and organisations to apply for up to $5,000 for projects that better the Launceston community, for projects commencing after the 31st of October, and that application window is open until the 31st of August. Also, Mr Mayor, wanted to note that last week I received an electronic copy of the City Prom newsletter encouraging public feedback with regard to the will or want of a Christmas tree in the city of Launceston. And I note that one of the conceptual drawings was a tree that did not include foliage. And so I would encourage all Launceston businesses, all Launceston families and anyone who enjoys the spirit of Christmas with some green tree leaves to ensure that they inform City Prom that the Christmas tree that we like in Launceston is one with green branches.
We're buying Hobart tree.
Thank you. Yeah. The meaning of the tree is about the green life. But anyway, that's another issue. Alderman Finlay.
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to update Council on two items. First, the Local Government Association of Tasmania conference in Hobart last week. I was able to attend on the Thursday and the Friday along with Alderman Alexander, the General Manager, and there are a number of staff there as well through some of the days. There were 6 items that I wanted to bring to Council's attention, and for all 6 of them, the reason to do that is that we as a community and as an organisation are really leading what's happening, not only local government in Tassie, but also where we had speakers from the rest of the country. So the first one, we had a great presentation from the City of Casey around smart cities, and they were presenting to Tasmania what they're doing in that space, and they consider that they're leading in that area. But in fact, with everything they presented, we're either matching or doing better with the work that we've got here locally. Yeah. Exactly right. And particularly in the item that we've got coming up later with the building heights, you know, our 3D model and the work that we're doing there with data is surpassing what's happening anywhere else in this state and mostly whatever is happening in the rest of the country. So it was great for Council to be able to check in with that through the City of Casey. On the Friday, the awards for excellence for small communities and large communities. City of Launceston were recognised as a finalist for a community of excellence with the FOGO a Go-Go project. So congratulations to the team that has delivered that. And as the General Manager is highlighting, I think, so much now. It's not just the waste management team, but across the whole organisation, everyone from customer service and finance and infrastructure and the waste management, but also with comms, everything that's been there was great to be recognised as a finalist. There were something like 18 councils that submitted into the Awards of Excellence, and I think of all of the councils, small and large, that presented, it's great to see what's happening in local government in Tassie. I haven't been down to the conference for a couple of years, but the level of the conference and the councils and what they're doing, I think, was really good. There were two other areas that Launceston, I think, is doing really well. One is there was a presentation on organisational wellness, and so for us as elected members of the organisation, and again the work that we're doing, I think, is leading and matching the presentation that we received on that. One that I think we can potentially reflect on, and I'll write a report on this one, is we had in the breakout sessions choices to go to, and I went to one on complex community engagement. A guy from Victoria who's worked through the States and Europe in the White House and other places with Fortune 500 companies talked about community engagement, and it was he used an Australian colloquialism, that's the word, moving from dad to Dave. And so the DAD model of communication and engagement is that you do something, you announce it, and then you defend it, which I thought was interesting. And he said that they've worked really successfully in moving that across to a Dave model, which is that you declare something is going to happen in the community, you acknowledge that we are no longer the smartest people in the room, and that we acknowledge that there are people in the community that will have engagement and expertise in that area, and also an emotional connection to want to see certain things happen, that you set a vision collectively about the outcome that you're looking to achieve, and then afterwards you evaluate with the community to see how we went through the process. And there's some really clear systems and structures in that. The person that did the presentation has a platform called Our Say, and I think there's a lot of videos and a lot of content on there in terms of being able to look at community engagement and the way that we work with our community. We've got lots of things going on, like our building heights coming up, and I think there's some good reflection there. And finally, the final speaker of the day was Genevieve Lilly, a internationally renowned architect that has chosen to move to Tasmania, and she did a final piece on reimagining place, a member of the Tasmanian Heritage Council, and a fantastic speaker and a great visual presentation. But she talked about, and I think it's really important for us, the value of simplicity when you're looking at place, and that not everything has to be complicated or big or have lots of detail, but often keeping true to what's here, like what we do in the Cataract Gorge, or like what we do with our heritage fabric around town. That simplicity obviously sometimes creates the most powerful outcome, and she used her presentation to promote the Reimagine Tasmanian Heritage. There's a great video online if you go to the Heritage Council website, and there's a book about it, and she used that. We did have a presentation recently around the Heritage Places Renewal Loan Scheme, and that's live now on the State Growth site. So some really good content in Hobart the last couple of days of last week, and we'll submit a report on that. And I just wanted to take a little bit of leeway as an alderman, but passionate about the Tornadoes, to declare that on Saturday we went on the road to Bendigo. Bendigo were undefeated all season. We got them, which was awesome, which means that we have a rest this week and we're playing at home on the 11th of August. Ticket sales are already online, and we've already sold hundreds of tickets. So if you want to get into Elphin and be one of the 1,000 people that are down there to support Tornadoes, who I reckon can go all the way this year, and I think Chargers will also go all the way, we're going to have a Tasmanian Grand Final in the Zebra League. Hobart Chargers in the men, Launceston Tornadoes in the women. Be there.
Thank you very much, and well done to the Tornadoes. It's a great result. Any other Alderman Kendrick?
Yeah, I just want to comment on the Friday night too, and the weekend of the rally, and I think it was Alderman Wood that actually brought it up briefly to the council, that what type of event would be for us to be involved with the city in this event. I stand corrected because I was on the levee bank watching the cars come through on the Ashfield area down towards the Woodrow area, and I thought the commentator who got the announcement said something like 2,000 dinars that contributed to the city of Launceston, which is a huge number of bed nights, but not about the middle here. Well, I did hear the mayor at one stage, and I didn't believe what the mayor said. That's right. I believe what the announcer said. So I believed everybody I listened to. But it was a great night. It was a great night, and it surprised me, to be perfectly honest. A number of people were there. not just the rev heads, but families, and the number of people that were with the kids and enjoying the night. And I just want to make a quick comment on what Alderman Wood said, that the skill and the talent that was there. Before I make a comment about that, is I'd also like to congratulate Buckby Motors on Launceston business. Yes. And I think it was tremendous for Buckby Motors to be so involved as the major, also the council and some of the other businesses in Launceston. But Buckby Motors, I think, need to be congratulated. They are doing things in our community now as a responsible business. And as far as the skill and ability, I sat down there at the end, they had a great big hay bale that the cars had to go round, a big brown one. And a few of them went round there, put the handbrake on and did the wheelie through there. And there was one car that came down there, and it was the only one that I saw that hit the hay bale head on. Moved it from here to you, Mr Mayor. Might I say it was Buckby Motors. So thank you. It was a great night.
Thank you, Alderman McKendrick. Any other Alderman reports? Alderman Sands?
Just to add there to the rally experience, I went down on Sunday evening to the presentation in Buckby's holding yard in Robertson Street, where they made the presentation, but there was some delay due to an appeal process going over to the winners. So I don't know whether that was upheld, but they finally made the presentation about an hour and a half later. But I think it went to a Subaru category winner. Adam Kaplan won the two-wheel drive category in his Nissan 370Z. But all in all, they enjoyed the weekend down here, and they're certainly appreciative of our funding of that event. So they look forward to coming back to Launceston.
Thank you, Alderman Sands. Any other Alderman reports? Any questions from Alderman? No, we'll move. Alderman Gibson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm just wondering when we shall expect to reach the final point of the re-signing of the Albert Hall lease, please.
Tomorrow.
Director. Bruce, are you able to answer the question?
Alderman, we're in negotiations with the lessee at the moment. We're very close to coming to receiving an offer from them, and once the offer is received, it will be submitted to council for your consideration.
So very soon. We'll move on. 12.1, the Northern Youth Coordinating Committee. Moved Alderman Gibson, seconded Alderman Finlay. Wish to speak to it, Alderman Gibson? Alderman Finlay? Any Alderman wish to speak? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all Aldermen present. The motion is carried. We go now to 15.1, Launceston CBD building heights. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Alderman Finlay. Do you wish to speak to it, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to highlight something which is very obvious, but sometimes you have to highlight the obvious, and that is, when we look at this one, we notice that it actually says we're releasing it for public consultation. Releasing it for public consultation. And that's a very, very important part of the process when we talk to our community. Mr Mayor, as we know and has been on the agenda for a while now, Paul Davies, Heritage Architectural Consultant, has been studying the Launceston Central City area and providing advice to Council on how building height and setback controls may be developed to support future development. In what we're doing today, we're actually releasing that for public consultation, Mr Mayor, and one of the things which I would strongly urge all of those people listening at the moment or here in the chamber or have an interest and perhaps can't be here today, is to take that opportunity and feed into that consultation process. And it's highlighted in our papers and online a significant range of options for people to feed into that. I'm highlighting again, it is the consultation process is open, and we really want to hear from our community on this, because as it highlights in our papers, we have a unique streetscape, a unique heritage in this city. We know that many people come to our city to see our fantastic heritage. And as it says on page 71 of our documents, development in Launceston is highly desirable, but it needs to retain the quality of Launceston's exceptional existing architecture. We're open to development, of course, but the right development in the right place is paramount. So, Mr Mayor, again, I would highlight, and we've got a number of channels open to people to feed into this. The Your Voice, Your Launceston, which we talk about a lot, our social media team that our media people run very effectively. It's open until the 24th of August, so people do have a significant, a number of days to make the opinions known, and it's spelled out very clearly there, the process going forward. But it's something that has to, we have to consult with our community on. We know one of the, I guess, challenges that come with people discovering what a great state Tasmania is and what a wonderful city Launceston is, as you often say, the best city in the country even, is that with that, and we've heard many aldermen speak today about the wonderful events that we have in our city, we don't understand as people that live in the city the need there are for things like hotel rooms, because we live here. But if you talk to people that want to come to see things like the rallies and the football and the hurricanes and festivals and all these sorts of things, we need places for people to stay. This particular study will give people an opportunity to have a talk about what those future developments might look like. So, again, I don't want to keep harping on it, but sometimes you've got to keep saying it. People that are listening, please take the opportunity to have your say. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Alderman Finlay.
Thanks, Mayor. Really excited today to be standing to support this item, that it goes out to the public for consultation. And just reflecting back on the report from the local government conference, the Dad to Dave model in consultation, there are so many members of our community that have expertise in terms of understanding the importance of heritage fabric as urban planners, as architects, and as members of the community that live in the spaces and interact with and socialise and engage with what is the urban development of Launceston. So I'm really looking forward to receiving commentary from the community and reflection on what has been presented, and also ideas that might come up that we haven't considered, and see how we can incorporate that in the overall changes that are made to the scheme. I think it's really important to acknowledge the great work that Paul Davies has done. He obviously has a deep affection for Launceston. He has done the heritage study in the past that Launceston noted. He, being somebody that lives and works in Sydney as a heritage planner, but also as an architect doing great urban development, understands the balance between development and heritage fabric, a deep affiliation with Tasmania through his offices in Hobart, and also the time he spent and with his team walking the streets of Launceston. But it's actually our team, and I think them working with us and the team and the experts that we have in our organisation that's created this really strong outcome to put out for consultation, because not only have they been here and walked the streets, but again, reflecting back on last week and the smart cities and the technology and the tools we have in our organisation, the 3D model that our organisation has, that we've worked and developed and committed to over many, many years to be in the right place to develop and have that now, to have those fly-throughs. I know that Paul has said when he's done the presentations to us that they've actually really loved working on this project because of that. It's been something they haven't really had the opportunity to work with before, and that Launceston has that and provides that for them, means that you can really feel and see what we're recommending. It's not just a thought that this might be right or this might feel right in this area, but where the 4 precincts are, we've identified places that can have large volume, significant development, and then identified places where we'd like to maintain that sort of small human scale part of Launceston. So the 4 precincts, I think, are really valuable in the way that they've been broken down and identified. And the 4 key objectives of the study about protecting the heritage character of Launceston, and about protecting the amenity and the values in the planning scheme, and looking at how we develop and manage the potential development that happens in the city, and that we facilitate appropriate design developments. And I think the key messages that we're looking to put out through this consultation and through these changes are that, and consistent with what the Deputy Mayor has presented, What makes Launceston unique and the reason why people love to live here and want to move here or visit is our scale. It is the streetscapes, it is the landscapes, it is the amenity, and that's what we're looking to protect. But there's absolute capacity for development here. We are open for, and at the moment, there's massive momentum in terms of development, the right development in the right places. So this gives the community the opportunity to engage, but it gives developers certainty about what they will come into if the outcome of this project is adopted. And so I'm looking forward to hearing people's response to this. I know that when Paul actually comes and presents what we're looking to achieve here, that people will absolutely understand. I have the chance to see the 3D model and hear from him his passion and understanding of that balance between development and the protecting of the heritage fabric. So I'm excited to support this day, looking forward to seeing what comes out of it and going to the next step, which is about making the changes for our planning scheme.
Thank you, Alderman Finlay. Alderman Mackenzie.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to endorse the comments made by the previous speakers. I think anything like building heights is always going to have some controversial elements to it in some people's minds about what's high and what's low. But let the discussion continue. That's what this is about. This is actually a chance for our community to have their say in relation to this. I think it's been a very mature way that we've gone about actually putting this together. I think Paul Davies has demonstrated in past work that he's done in this city that he's well regarded, because every time I speak about something to do with heritage, Paul Davies report of blah, 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 or 2007 comes up. So he's very well regarded in relation to his understanding of heritage nature cities. So I think that is an extremely important tick that we get when we do that. But I wouldn't want to underscore any of the work that's been done by our officers in relation to assisting Paul in putting this together, because I think they have a really good understanding of our city as well. I think the breaking up into different sections within the CBD, I think, is a very sensible thing to do, which means we can then look at each individual area as it transforms. So I'm excited about where this is going. I just wanted to note for those that might be listening out there that the consultation, if we pass this today, is running from tomorrow until the 24th of August. So you've got about 3.5 weeks in which to actually make your comments. There's going to be a number of opportunities for people to pass their comments in a formal sense to various things. I think looking at the agenda there are a number of other things through the social media aspect, media releases, Your Voice, Your Launceston, structured presentation. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to get engaged in this process. And like the previous two speakers, I'm excited about what might come back from that to help us frame our decision, because I think the beauty about this is going to set a framework for Launceston for the next 10, 20, 30 years about how we're going to develop our city, and we'll have some clarity for how we make decisions, and the people who are coming in and actually wanting to do things in our city will have some clarity about the guidelines in which we are going to operate under. So I commend the work to the people of Launceston to have their say, for us to come back and make a decision at some stage late in October.
Thank you, Alderman Mackenzie. Alderman Alexander.
I'll just push the button, Mr Mayor, just to make sure. Mr Mayor, like all of the other aldermen around the table, I think all of us here have a compassion for Launceston, understand how important something like this work is going to be for the community, and I think it's really clear that we're all excited because of a number of things. If you think back over the last 100 years of this city and imagine how many hotels we may have built in that time frame, I think we could all agree that they would only fit on one hand. But already now, over the last year or so, we're talking about some major potential development coming, and of course that causes some angst within the community. Having something like this document going out for us for the community consultation is going to allow the community to actually engage and understand how important it is, because as a city like ours, to be a regional city, that we want to be the most family-friendly city, if we are going to have accommodation and new hotels and new buildings being built in the city, we have to be mindful of everyone's concerns, and that's why having something like this is really important. The maturity of our city and our staff alone being involved in this project has probably excited most all of the staff that have been involved in it, because they now have a real role to play in actually building this 3D model, if you like, and showing people what it's like. And I think around the table, the aldermen agree, the day that we first saw it, was to be able to stand back and look at it from East Launceston, West Launceston, and to understand what impact that building is going to have on the area or the region of the city itself. So I think it's important for the community to have buy-in. I think it's really important, like Alderman Mackenzie said,
we have 3.5 weeks to have some consultation. So really take the time, engage with it, with our community. I commend the work, and I really am, like all of the aldermen around the table, excited about what the possibilities we can have. But also I'd like to congratulate all of our staff that are involved in the project, because clearly this is world leading. And after being at Elgate last week, to see all of the international speakers talk about what these things are going to do for regional cities, and to see us sitting there leading that, I think is quite a proud moment for all of the people that were actually attending. So I commend the work and look forward to hearing.
Thank you, Alderman Alexander. Any other speakers? Deputy Mayor, you wish to close?
Yes, Mayor, and I thank the aldermen who spoke for their contributions, and I'll just conclude by saying that this is going to be something that will shape this city for many, many years to come. And again, sometimes you've got to say the obvious things. One of the things that we tend to see at times is when people have an opportunity to have their say, they don't. Once the consultation period's shut and it comes back to council, all of a sudden experts come out of the woodwork everywhere. So I'd really urge people to get engaged with that. But on an even baser level, Mr Mayor, I would urge people, even before they have a view, to read the report. I find it interesting that people can have views without having facts in front of them. This is a very, very detailed report from, a very, very well-respected person in this field. It's a very, very important document. So I'd urge people to read it, to engage with it, to follow up and ask questions if they need to contribute, and then I look forward to hearing from our community on all of those things when it comes back to us. So very excited about the fact that it's here, and look forward to getting the community engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all aldermen present. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Just to note the change in the recommendation.
Yeah, 15.2. Then Director Hurst has a comment to make.
Just further to the communication last week from Anthea, there's been a slight change to the to one word in the first recommendation there, and that is that the word flat be replaced with the word maximum, so a maximum hire fee of $500.
That's moved. Alderman Mackenzie, seconded Alderman McKendrick. Do you wish to speak to it, Alderman Mackenzie?
I think with that amendment, that makes it very useful, I think, on the basis that it now enables those that might not otherwise be able to afford to deal with it because of the $500 charge, then it makes it open to those people. So I think it's a great interim thing, and it'll get reviewed along with our normal fees and charges, which I think is appropriate as well.
Thank you.
The issue that I had of flat fee, I mean, I had a query last Thursday from a community group, an interpreter. He works within the community with our people from Ethiopia or wherever they come from, and he was asking about hiring it for a community activity, a non-profit, just to have a nice day in one of our civic square or somewhere. So that enables that perhaps to happen. So I agree entirely with Alderman Mackenzie.
Thank you. Any other alderman wish to speak? Alderman Wood.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I support this entirety today. In its entirety, I think the adoption there makes perfect sense. A lot of time, money and effort has gone into doing up the city in these various areas, and I think that this will just make it a lot simpler for lots of organisations to activate these areas in the city and continue to bring the city alive with activities, and I support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Wood. Any other alderman wish to speak? Alderman Mackenzie, you wish to close?
Only that some of the words that Alderman McKendrick did say didn't come out of my mouth.
Thank you, Alderman. I will now put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all aldermen present, and the motion is carried. I think that's it, isn't it? One more. We move on to 20.1, annual mission of rates. Moved Alderman Mackenzie, seconded. Any alderman? Alderman Finlay, thank you. Do you wish to speak to it, Alderman Mackenzie?
Just briefly, I think these are just matters that I think are just coming back to us for conclusion on the basis that we've already agreed to those matters being eligible for remission. So I think it's just quantifying what we're actually remitting. I think just everybody should read the numbers and look at them. And I note that I think that we've actually now done a motion for the current year where the fire service charges will now be charged in the future. So the one in the services rates will not be any longer a remission going forward based on what we've already agreed. But I'd ask people to have a look at what the other ones are.
Thank you. Alderman Finlay.
I'm going to match Alderman Mackenzie and be braver and take it a step up. I think as an organisation, this is obviously here for our year-end acknowledgement of the remissions that have been granted, but I think we have to take serious consideration into the remissions that we grant into the community. The numbers that we are acknowledging today aren't insignificant, and in terms of percentages of rate and rate increases in our community, I believe that we at all times have to deeply consider the financial, and I'm going to use the word burden, that we lay across the entire municipality for the benefit of a small number of people, and have to really deeply analyse the way that we apply those. And so Alderman Mackenzie has asked that we read them. I'm going to highlight, as I have in my green highlighter, the third item in the chart, which is approved by us by our policy, the aged care remissions, to a value of $806,051.21. That's a serious amount of money, and we have for some times considered that in the past in terms of our rating policy. All of those organisations are actually rated. They are delivered with a rates notice. They are made aware of the amount that they would be due to pay, and then we have a current policy to say that we 100% remit that. In the past, we have received consideration from people about whether we don't take that remission away, and often we've dealt with individuals in individual properties. However, the person that receives the rate note is the corporate entity, and I think the relationship between us and those corporate entities needs to be examined, and that, as we have attempted to do in the past, that we keep them on notice that the rates notice that they are delivered is their financial responsibility and is only due to a policy that is remitted at this time. And again, to highlight that $806,051.21 is a lot of money for the balance of our community to bear.
Thank you, Alderman Finlay. Any other Alderman wish to speak? Alderman Mackenzie, you wish to close?
Only that I endorse the comments made by my prior speaker.
I'm sure you do. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all Aldermen present. The motion is carried. Can I have a motion now that we've moved into closed council? Moved Alderman Kendrick, seconded the Deputy Mayor. And endorsed decisions made. All those in favour? And that is all Aldermen present. We'll now have a 5-minute break.
Audio streaming of today's council meeting